What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jeremy's Point of View. I am excited to talk week one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you have not been watching this, then you are certainly missing out. This has been an unbelievably heated, tough-fought, these playoffs have been unbelievable so far. I don't want this first round to end because I'm afraid rounds 2, 3, and on couldn't top what we've gotten so far. From the fights, from the rough hits, the dirty plays. I mean, there has just been so much going on. At the same time, I know that there's been a lot of complaints about the officiating in these games, but just to look at this and see how hard fought these series have been, how much closer some of these series have been, this has just been a fantastic first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's got me excited and pumped for what's going to come here in this second week. So we're going to dive into that. I'm going to share some video with you guys from some of the games this past week, and we're going to talk about where all your teams are so far in this Stanley Cup playoffs and who's looking to take the win in some of these series. So let's go ahead. I got the bracket up here. So first things first, I'm actually going to talk about my Carolina Hurricanes, who are up 3-1 in the series against the New York Islanders. And what do I got to say? Ilya Sorokin, the thing I thought I talked about with you guys going into this series was I thought the goaltending was going to be huge. And whether or not Carolina could get somebody in net that would consistently give them that strong goaltending night after night after night. Frederik Andersen has been out. Kochetkov has been the backup. They decided to go with Antti Raanta. If you guys watched my video breaking things down, I said the Canes really did need to go with Antti Raanta. That was what I was talking about, and I'm really glad that they did. He was our most consistent and solid goaltender all season, and they started him going into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he has been unbelievable in virtually every game. Obviously, Game 3 in New York was a little bit of a rough game, but that game was super close all the way up until about 5-6 minutes to go when the Islanders ended up scoring about 4 goals in 2 minutes, and I forget the exact amount of time, but it was a NHL Stanley Cup playoff record. The Islanders putting up 4 goals in the shortest amount of time, which is just unbelievable. But that game was hard fought, extremely close, and to be perfectly honest, the Canes kind of gave that one away. It was a game where they had a few power plays. They had plenty of opportunities to go up in that game, and having it 1-1 with only 5-6 minutes to go, they kind of collapsed at the end, and the Islanders put it away, which was a great game for the Islanders. They dug deep, they got themselves back in the series. Then we went into Game 4 over the weekend, and just a hell of a game. Top to bottom, the Canes put together a full 60-minute performance. I mean, that's really the best way to say it. They put together a 60-minute performance, and they did end up giving up a couple goals towards the end of the game, but at the end, it was already too late. They were up 5-2 at the end, and they take a 3-1 series lead, and now they just need to win one more to win this series. So potentially, there's still 3 games left to be played. If the Islanders can go back to Carolina's home ice and take one, then they'll still be in this thing. But Carolina gets 3 opportunities to win a game and put this series away. And at this stage of things, I don't see how they could not put this series away, especially with the fact that they have just been playing much, much better, much more consistent hockey. And if they can play like they did in Game 4, they should be able to put this away in Game 5. Now, on the Islanders side, you know what? I'm not here to talk trash on anybody's fan base. But the Islanders, man, I understand ratcheting up the physicality. But, man, the dirty plays. I mean, they broke Teuvo Teravainen's hand with basically a tomahawk slash. And then, that hit against Jack Drury at the same time. I'm a little 50-50 on that one. Drury was turning a bit into the boards. He took that hit. It is what it is at the end of the day. And I really do think that hit could have been played a little bit differently so that it wouldn't have knocked Drury out of the game, especially with how good Drury has been looking so far. He has not put up the numbers, but he has been winning faceoffs. He's been winning faceoffs on that power play. I mean, Drury's just been playing his heart out. You can see that the guy has gotten his opportunity here in the playoffs, and he knows that this is a chance for him to make his mark and to show that he deserves to be on the starting lineup next year with the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm really hoping Drury will be back. We don't know about Tuvo. He did undergo hand surgery, and it looks like he will be out for an extended amount of time. Will we see him before the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs? It remains to be seen. But I'm excited to see how the rest of the series plays out. It has been hard fought. It has been physical, and I'm pumped for it. Now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils. That series right now, the Rangers are up 2-1 in the series. They basically blew the Devils out in the first 2 games of that series. And New Jersey had to dig deep in Game 3. And Game 3 was a game where they played well, but New York still ultimately played better throughout that entire game. But at the end of it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who played better for the full 60 minutes. It's who has the most goals and who ends up taking it. And New Jersey would end up winning that in overtime, and that was a big game for them. That kept them alive in the series. Now they are, like I said, it's a 2-1 series, so New Jersey has a chance to dig their way back into it, but they're going to have to play better, and they're going to have to play more consistent hockey, especially on the defensive side, and especially when it comes to taking so many penalties. They took so many penalties, and yes, their penalty kill did a great job killing off basically all of New York's power plays, but you're not going to be able to do that consistently. New York has so many weapons. Their first power play is, it's stacked. And you take a look at their second power play, and for most teams, that is most teams' first power play. So the Rangers do not have a weak power play. Those 2 power plays are just, they're unbelievably stacked, and when they are able to get going, they can put teams away badly. So the fact that New Jersey was able to kill all those penalties is what really kept them in the game, and they did play much better defensively. They're going to have to continue to do that, but they're going to have to get more out of their 5-on-5 offense. We've got to see more from Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and all those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the series plays out. New Jersey now has a little bit of momentum after winning that Game 3. So we will see. Also, goaltending was a big thing. Them going over to the rookie. I don't have his name, I'm sorry, off the top of my head. I know they moved, they had Vanacek in Game 1 and 2, and they had the 22-year-old young guy come on in to play in Game 3, and he was phenomenal. I watched him in that game, and he played great, and he was one of the also big reasons New Jersey was able to keep themselves in that game, and I'm going to presume they're going to go with him as we head into Game 4 of the Devils and Rangers series. So that one's going to be exciting. I ultimately still think New York should take this series, but you know what? We'll see. We'll see what Game 4 looks like. If the Devils are able to go out there, play better than they have been playing, can play better defense, get the better goaltending, and maybe put up a few more points, or goals, I should say, in 5-on-5, then this series could be wide open if they're able to tie it at 2-2. So we will see. I'm excited for that one as well. All right, so let's talk about probably the most physical series thus far. Not that there aren't other ones that have been extremely physical, but man, Tampa Bay and Toronto. Right now, Toronto is up 2-1 in the series. That Game 3 was explosive. And ultimately, Tampa played the better game. From the first 60 minutes, they played better. They played better in overtime. It ultimately looked like Tampa should win that game. But it's another example of the team that looks like they should win doesn't always take it. Sometimes puck luck, sometimes the luck of a draw. And that is exactly what happened in overtime. They had that fantastic face-off, and Riley puts it away. And, it goes that way sometimes. And Toronto all of a sudden goes up 2-1 in a game that in the past, Toronto couldn't win these games. These were games that typically Toronto gave up, and it's what would cost them in the playoffs. So it's interesting. Toronto overall is going to have to play better if they're going to end up taking the series against Tampa. But being up 2-1 on them is a good start. We've seen some flashes from them. They are playing much better. They're much more resilient this year, and I think that resiliency can carry them far. And I honestly think this Tampa matchup is probably one of the hardest matchups for them overall. I mean, Tampa is just such a phenomenal team. There's a reason why they went to 3 back-to-back Stanley Cups and won 2 back-to-back. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the series plays out. If Tampa's able to continue playing the way they've been playing, I still think Tampa will end up taking this in 7 games. But do not be surprised if Toronto is able to come through. I just think they're going to need to shore some things up. They seemed like they were playing a little bit slow out there the other night. But Ryan O'Reilly, let's talk about Ryan O'Reilly briefly. That guy, what a pickup at the trade deadline. I don't think the Maple Leafs would be in this series if it was not for Ryan O'Reilly. The man was able to score a goal to tie things up late in the third, and then he was part of that faceoff that won them the game in overtime. And taking a look at all of the huge trade deadline acquisitions from Timo Meier to Matthias Ekholm, I mean, just tons of players that have really, really helped out their teams. I think Ryan O'Reilly is the biggest win of them all. And for everything Toronto gave up for them, I think it was 100% worth it. He has really, really helped solidify that team. He has given them a veteran presence out there, somebody who knows how to play in the playoffs, somebody that is unbelievable on the faceoffs. And ultimately, he was a big reason why the Toronto Maple Leafs were able to win this game and go 2-1 up in the series. So I'm excited to see how this one plays out because this one has been hard fought, physical. We've got Steve Stamkos and Austin Matthews fighting it out. It wasn't much of a fight, but still, we got Austin Matthews technically in his first fight against Steve Stamkos. It was an exciting game, and it has been an exciting series so far, and I'm looking forward to see how the rest of these games play out. Now let's talk about Boston. We've got Boston and Florida. So Boston is up 3-1 in the series, and Florida, man, they're trying. They're out there. They're fighting. You've got Matthew Tkachuk, basically being Matthew Tkachuk and doing some dirty shit, some hits, some things of that nature. He's trying to get under the other player's skin. But ultimately, Boston has taken advantage of every opportunity they've had in this series. And them being up 3-1, I'm not surprised. They had such a phenomenal regular season. And this team is stacked from the blue line to all four offensive lines. I mean, they are just unbelievably talented. And even with them missing some players and some players being out, they still managed to put together these unbelievable performances. They are physical. They play such a great game of hockey. And I ultimately think if they are not able to put this away in the next game, they should win one of the next two games and put this series away. I know Florida is going to be going into this next game very desperate. Being down 3-1 is basically a death sentence at this stage of the game. But don't count them out. They've got, like I said, players like Matthew Tkachuk, players that are in there willing to dig down deep and cause problems for the other team. And at the end of the day, Florida is not going to go out quietly. That is the big thing. So Boston's going to have to be on their A game to put them away. But I ultimately think Boston will end up putting the Panthers out of their misery in the next 1 to 2 games. And we will see them move on to take on the winner of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is going to be an extremely exciting series. And if Tampa wins that, man, can you guys picture that series? Boston, Tampa, head-to-head. That gets me pumped. So I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. Being that I'm a Hurricanes fan, I have watched a lot more of the Eastern Conference games, a lot more of that side of the bracket. So I have watched a little bit of the Kraken Avalanche. Avalanche are up 2-1 in the series, and I think a lot of people have been surprised at what the Kraken have been able to do, but I wasn't. That was something I believe I talked about in my video breaking down and getting ready for the playoffs, was that the Kraken, yes, they don't have a Nathan MacKinnon or a Connor McDavid. They don't have a player like that on their team, but all four of their lines are very, very talented. They're very, very strong. They get their goal scoring across the board from all four lines. And defensively, they've been playing a very, very stout game. They've been playing solid. This is a franchise in their second season, and they have done a lot to really build this team from the draft, from the ground up. They took a different approach than the Golden Knights did, when they came about in the NHL. And I think the Kraken do have a chance to still potentially win this series. Now, Colorado, obviously, defending Stanley Cup champions. They really, really want this. They are missing Gabriel Landeskog, which definitely hurts them. But at the same time, they've got so much talent on that team, and this team does want it. They have explosive players. You've got Nathan MacKinnon. You've got Cale Makar. You've got a lot of really good players on that team. So this one's going to be interesting to see how the rest of it plays out. I think the Kraken across the board are a little bit deeper, and they have a little bit better depth across it all. But is that able to overcome the just unbelievable talent of players like MacKinnon and Makar, and the fact that, this is the Kraken's first time in the playoffs. These guys, yes, they may have players on there that have played in the playoffs before, but as a whole, this is the franchise's first attempt in the playoffs. And, You're going up against the defending Stanley Cup champions. The Avalanche have the experience. They know what it takes to get to the Stanley Cup. They did it last year, and they are not going to go out quietly this year. So I do think the Avalanche are going to end up winning this series after watching a bit of these first 3 games. But don't be surprised if the Kraken make this a scrappy one. And if this thing goes to 7 games, I wouldn't be surprised one bit. We've got another hard-fought matchup, the Stars and the Wild, who are tied 2 apiece. This has been a very, very hard-fought series. I will be honest with you guys, I have not watched a ton of this series. I've watched some of the highlights. It looks like it has been a hell of a series. I got 2 kids, so it is hard for me sometimes to watch all of the hockey games as much as I want to watch all of them because it has been exciting. I got to prioritize the ones that I am most interested in. And that's honestly the other side of the bracket because that's where my Hurricanes are. So I have not watched a ton of this series, but it looks like it has been unbelievable. It has been exciting. And I think this one's going to go down to the wire. 7 games, and it could go either way. But either one of these teams could end up taking this thing ultimately. And it'll be exciting to see who ends up coming out on top. In the other series, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets. I have watched some of this series. And, I think ultimately, for as talented both of these teams are, I think the Golden Knights are going to end up taking this. I just think that they have been playing much better, more consistently. I think they've been getting the better goaltending, and I just have this feeling that they are destined to go to the next round this year, and they are going to be the team that is going to be facing the Oilers or the LA Kings. I think Winnipeg is going to hold out. I think this game, or this series, I should say, is going to at least go 6 games. But I do think Vegas, depending on how this next game plays out, has a chance to put this thing away in 6 games, potentially 7, obviously. And I feel like they're the better overall team. They have more options, more weapons for scoring, and they've been getting pretty good goaltending. They've been playing really, really well defensively. I just think the Vegas Golden Knights are destined to take it and move on to the next round. And then last but not least, we've got the Oilers and the LA Kings in what has been an unbelievable matchup. Now, everybody's been talking about the Connor McDavid show. I want to talk about Leon Draisaitl. If you take a look at this guy's numbers, he has been the player that has been putting this team on his back. He is the reason why the Oilers are still in this series, and this series is tied 2 apiece. Leon Draisaitl, man, just take a look at the games. Watch what he has been doing. In the games where Connor McDavid has been absent and just hasn't really shown up on the score sheet or anything else, it's been Leon Draisaitl that has been putting this team on his back when he's needed to. This series, man, it has been such a just fun series to watch. And anytime you've got players like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl out there playing, you just want to watch it. At the same time, the LA Kings, you got Drew Doughty, who has been making it a point to put Connor McDavid on his ass on the ice every single night. He looks like prime Drew Doughty. Man, this series could go either way. I ultimately am going to lean towards the Oilers when you've got just such weapons like Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman. I mean, this team is just really, really good. They're getting decent goaltending, although that is something that does scare me, is how well that's going to hold up through the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs for them. And I think that could be the thing that ends up costing them ultimately. I just think this isn't the year yet for the LA Kings. I think maybe next year, maybe a year or 2 from now, that team still has a lot of young talent coming up, and I think they'll be able to put it together here in the next couple of years. And I think this is the year where the Oilers are going to go on a little bit of a deeper run, and we'll see. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat teams like Vegas or potentially Colorado, but I do think that side of the bracket, man, I think it's wide open, and it'll be interesting to see how all these games play out and how the second round ends up playing out. So, yeah, guys, that is my little bit of talk here on the Stanley Cup playoffs and taking a look at all the games, the bracket, all of that. If you have missed any of these games, it has been fun. You should go back. You should watch the highlights. These series have been great, and I know I've said it a bunch of times, I'm pumped to see how the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs is going to play out. These games have been unbelievable, and I don't think it can get bad from here. I think it's just going to get even better as these rounds move on. And the second round especially, I think some of these matchups, they have barn burner written all over them. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel continue to grow. Also, check out my other channel. It is called The Cellar True Crime. You guys can look that up. I also link it in the description box below, along with my Teespring store and all that other good stuff. So if you guys could check that out, I greatly appreciate it. Once again, subscribe, like, and let me know what you guys have thought so far of the Stanley Cup playoffs in that comment section below. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys again. Peace.